The Align Surfaces command is a way for you to create continuity from one surface to the other without necessarily attaching. This continuity can be positional, it can be tangential, or it can be based on the curvature of your objects. Let me give a quick example by creating a couple of planes. And to help sort of show everything that's going on, I'm going to add several patches to these planes. Make sure they're nice and highly detailed so we can see the curvature real well. Okay, so now let's say I wanted to align these two surfaces together. I can select the two surfaces, and this is very similar to Align Curves over under the Edit Curves menu. We'll come down to Align Surfaces and open up the Options box. And we have several options here, but this is all very, very easy to check out. First off, let's take a look at our continuity. We can choose position, tangent, or curvature. We'll start with position because it's the simplest. And we can start off by choosing who we're going to modify the position of. The first object, meaning notice the first object slides over to the second object. We can adjust the second object instead, or we can select both, wherein we get an average in between the two. If we don't want to move either one of the objects, we can choose whose boundary will move. So we can modify the boundary of the first object like so, the boundary of the second object like so, or take an average between the two boundaries. Now we have the ability to attach our alignment, which is something I'll take a look at a little bit later. For now, we're not too worried about that. Let's take a look at our second type of continuity, which is tangent. Now this allows us to create tangency between these two surfaces, and we also get a new checkbox, or a new radio button, if you will, that allows us to control whose tangent is to be modified, the tangent of the first object or the tangent of the second object. Let's go ahead and leave modify boundary for both objects. We're actually pulling both these objects' boundaries toward one another. They'll meet in the middle, but we're going to modify the tangent only of the first object. So press apply, and there we go. Notice they are now meeting at perfect tangency, so we don't get a hard edge crease in between the two. The tangency is being kept throughout. We also have two sliders here, tangent scale first and tangent scale second. These allow us to control the size of that tangent on the surface, and it's a lot easier to see this if we actually go into the input node for Align Surface, and you'll see that we have these, and we can play with them with a virtual slider. So we have tangent scale 1, where we can increase the scale of the tangent or decrease it at will. Now let's go ahead and open up our options again. Now, we can also set our continuity over to curvature. This is going to make certain that the two surfaces meet with the same curvature in between. So let's go ahead and click Apply, like so. And now we also have the ability to scale the curvature of the two surfaces, which in this case won't probably make too much of a difference. Let's go into the side view and create a slightly different example. I'll create a CV curve, like so. And another one, like so. Select both of these curves, and I'll move them over. Let's duplicate them both, slide over. I'll select 2 on one side and go to Surfaces Loft to create one NURBS surface, and do the same thing on the other side to create another NURBS surface. Now I'll grab my surfaces, hold down Shift, select my curves, and delete those out. So I have these 2 curved surfaces. Now I'll select both of these, go to Edit NURBS. Let's go back to Align Surfaces. And notice we still have curvature selected, so I'll click Apply. And they're meeting up. They're keeping tangency. But now we can multiply out that curvature value for the second surface or the first surface to make adjustments. And this is independent of tangent scale. So you can, between the two of these, you have a lot of control over how the two of these are aligned together. Now, you also have access to the join parameter here inside the node, and you'll notice that here inside of options, we've pretty much covered all the options except for attach, which I'll just give a quick example over because this is very much like the attach surfaces command. You can check attach, choose whether or not you want to keep multiple knots, click apply, and the two surfaces will attach together. This is sometimes a great alternative to actually using the attach surfaces command because you still have the ability to adjust these tangent scales. Let's go ahead and just delete that out. We'll switch off, undo that anyways. We'll switch off the attach command because we won't be needing that. And let's just reapply this like so. Now here inside the node we have a few different parameters that we can adjust that you won't see inside the options, but a lot of it is stuff that we've already seen, except for join parameter. What this is going to allow you to do is to control where along the surface the alignment is taking place. And this is going to be based on which of the two surfaces you decided to affect. So in this case, since we're modifying the tangent of the first, in fact, actually we probably won't be able to adjust this at all right now. Yeah, if we go into our attribute editor, you'll notice that join parameter is crossed out. That's because right now we're modifying both objects. If we choose to modify just one, in this case we modify the first to match the second, suddenly the join parameter lights up. Now, be aware of, it's not necessarily a bug, it just has to do when this particular operation was coded. This slider was given values that range from positive 123,456, which conveniently enough is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. I don't know of any NURBS surface I've ever used that has parameterization that goes as high as 123,000. So in most cases, you won't actually be using the slider here, but you can punch in different parameter values. Like check the parameter of your object. Let's go over to the shape node, and the parameter on this is 0 to 1. It's good for us. Very easy to use. So we can start off with 0, and then say 0.5, and you'll notice now the alignment is taking place halfway down the surface. And 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. And it's just a way to control where along the surface you're going to be making that alignment. In most cases, you won't want to adjust that. If ever you do, just remember that the slider itself is pretty much useless. Aside from this, we have several of the options that we have throughout a lot of the NURBS tools as far as would you like to reverse the U and V of one surface or another? Would you like to swap the U and V directions of one surface or another? Or would you like to twist or basically untwist any objects you find? And we've already kind of talked about those in several of the other tools, so no need to really beat over them here. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that if you're in the attribute editor, tangent scale and curvature scale fall within new sections called interior blending. So you can control the tangent scale here, and these are very sensitive. They go between 100 and negative 100. Personally, I find it a lot easier to come out here and use the virtual slider, especially if you set your sensitivity for the virtual slider to be very low. And you can tweak these out to get exactly the look you're going for. So that's everything about aligning surfaces. Again, it's just a way to get nice continuity from one surface over to another, whether you attach them or not. So that'll wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.